Does it make a difference if we name drop competitors on our site? For example, we have a sales page that says compare our rates with blank, but are we just giving them a free boost by putting their name on our site?
Well, it depends on your audience. In some cases where compare us to major brand, especially if the person has already been to major brand, it's an implication that perhaps you have differentiated yourself and you are better. If it's compare us to somebody you don't know, you might be inviting him to go check out that other site. But that's more of a conversion tool than anything else. Does it help you? Well, if you're referring to a trademarked name, a registered trademark name, they could always come back and tell you to remove their name from your website, that you're using their name in an unfair trade situation to intercept their trade, right? People searching for their name, your site might show up. That would be unfair use of their name. So you got to be careful about some of those things. You certainly cannot put their name in any meta tag. It has to only be clear text. So even if you were to do it, it has to be clear text. Everybody can see, none of the tags. And I don't think there's any real benefit to it. Why don't you just say, compare us to any competitor or, something like that. That would be far clearer. Name dropping a competitor does not ever help you. Give a bad war story. We had a person many, many years ago, a site, and what they did is they sold cowboy clothing, hats and right down to spurs and chaps and all that stuff. And they came in and asked us to audit their site, and we looked at it. And right in the middle of the tags, they had the word sex. It only appeared once. It was only in a tag, nowhere else. So we said, why did you put the word sex in that tag? And they said, well, there's a lot of searches for the word sex. So we thought if we added it to our page, we'd get more traffic. Honestly, cross my heart. That's what they did. And so mentioning a competitor is probably not going to boost you at all. It doesn't work. It may confuse some search results. It may cause people to go check out your competition that otherwise wouldn't. The first thing you want to do is establish expertise, authority, and trust, EAT. If you can do that and you don't have to mention anybody else, you're a winner. So I would focus on expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. Above all else, I wouldn't mention competitors unless absolutely necessary.
This reminds me, we actually got a question about this in one of our previous Q&As about name dropping influencers or celebrities, because say, for example, you sold microphones and a famous singer typically used that brand of microphones. Could you name drop them? Yeah, you could, but there's a lot of legal liability with that and you run into a lot of issue. So there might be some pros and cons to that, but I think on the safe end, it's better to just leave that alone, especially if you're referencing or pointing to something that you technically don't own. You run into a lot of murky waters, so it's best to just steer clear of a lot of those things. It could theoretically maybe help, but it's just not worth the risk, I don't think, in our opinion.
With a celebrity, you're much better off. For a fee, you can usually get permission, right? I know I use sometimes cartoons, characters and things like that, and artwork produced by other people. And if you're going to do that, you just have to buy it. Well, sometimes that's the same thing for an influencer. You don't get to just stick them on your website. Right. If they're an influencer and they value their trademark or image. So you got to be careful.
And I've spent a lot of time, especially working in video, studying the legality of fair use. You'll hear that a lot about people saying you could use copyrighted material, very minimally. That's the biggest gray area ever. And it's something to where the more I've looked into it, it's really, any lawyer would tell you that fair use is it is 99% of the time they're breaking the law. Anytime it uses fair use as an excuse. And I would just recommend that you probably, steer clear of anything you don't own. You should own everything on your website, and anything on there that you don't own, probably consider removing it or replacing it.
I think if you're not an EDU, you've got a bullseye painted on your back. So got to be careful about what you're using.
If you want to ask Bruce Clay your SEO question, head on over to seotraining.com/pages/webinar and register to join our next live webinar with the Father of SEO himself. It's completely free and allows you to get the SEO insights you need for your website. So sign up today so you don't miss out.